I was told that that would be a good thing.
I know.
434.
Which item was, it's not on the current agenda.
You had already presented your first bill,
That's right, before you,
so you're
That's right.
you're safe here.
well, good.
Yeah.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to bring forward Assembly Bill 434. I'll begin by stating that we will be accepting the committee's amendments, and we appreciate the ability to work with your staff in making this bill a better bill. AB 434 is a bill that is necessary to provide clean, safe drinking water to many communities throughout the state of California, particularly areas in the eastern parts of Coachella Valley and the Central Valley. These areas lack the resources necessary to connect to the centralized treatment facilities and as a result lack access to reliable and clean drinking water. The bill will ensure that communities who need access to clean drinking water are able to access it by allowing the use and installation of point-of-use and point-of-entry devices. With that, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote. With me, we have a couple of folks that are sponsors of the bill that will be speaking as well.
Well, let's hear from them. Your first witness.
My name is Luis Olmedo, and I work in the entire Salton Sea region, and I've been working with the Coachella communities for, I would say, about 6-7 years. And I'm very familiar with the over 100 parks that exist in this area. They're dependent on groundwater, and really their only means of clean water is a point-of-view system. Many of these communities, the majority or all of them are farm working communities. They don't have connections to a central water system, and therefore many of these have very deplorable conditions, I must say. I'm here in support of the bill. Like I said, I work with the organization that is the sponsor of the bill. I'm actually here to speak on another bill, but I do want to say that there is a group out there called La Unión Hace la Fuerza, which means the unity makes force. And it's a group of farm workers that are out there that have been advocating, that have been stepping up, and that have been courageous enough to try to bridge the language gap. And many of these communities have been courageous enough to step up and have a meaningful voice on a lot of the policies that are happening at the state level and try to make that connection to resources. But they're a long way from really having a meaningful voice in policy and even bringing down resources. So it's really dependent. These communities are really dependent on pretty much the willingness, the political will of the local levels, the regional level and state level. And so with that said, I just want to say that I really support this bill, and it'd be nice if we had the ability to bus people from those communities, because I think that they would really have a very clear message of the conditions that they live with. But I mean, if there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to ask. I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. Next witness.
Madam Chairman, members, Pete Conity representing the Water Quality Association and the Pacific Water Quality Association, and we are supporters of this bill, as we have been on other bills in the past on this issue. In a perfect world, everybody in California would be hooked up to centralized water treatment, but that's not going to happen in our lifetime. We simply cannot afford it. There are too many rural areas. There are areas like the sponsor talked about up and down the state, especially in the Coachella Valley and the Imperial Valley. And so there is an alternative, and this bill goes quite a ways towards allowing these disadvantaged, poor, rural farm working communities the opportunity to enjoy clean water. Thank you.
Right. Any other people wishing to testify in support of this measure by adding their name and affiliation? Seeing and hearing none. How about opposition? Quiet on that front, too. So let's open it up for questions, but before I do, there was an amendment that was recommended by the chair.
That's
Staff.
correct, and we've accepted the amendment.
Accepted the
Yes, thank
amendment.
you.
That's to restore the 3-year limit.
That's correct.
Using the technology. I wanted to make sure that was stated, and thank you very much for doing that. Senator Hill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Assemblymember Garcia, thank you for bringing this issue because of certainly the need and the importance to your constituents and to many areas of California. You know, I know in last year we had, as I chaired this committee, we discussed this issue in detail, and it looks like a kind of a normal conversation that we have in the Environmental Quality Committee. With the 3-year extension that was previously, and then now that the 3-year extension moving forward, is there a time frame in some of those districts or those areas where we will see centralized treatment in the future? I know that just mentioned that not in our lifetime as some areas, but what's the future, at least in?
Well, I'll begin by saying that we would hope that in our lifetime we'll see the extension of this infrastructure be put in place in some of these remote areas of our district or other parts of California. The estimated cost in our region could be as low as $80 million and go as far up as $700 million. We're talking about mobile home park locations that are remotely located from the nearest centralized infrastructure. A lot of conversation has been discussed, and plans of moving forward with preparing engineering documents and what have you through the opportunities to access dollars from Prop 1B, the conversations related to drought and some of the trailer bills connected to the budget that we will be looking at in the next couple of days. Also, our conversations that assist in being able to plan for the infrastructure that hopefully at some point we can put an actual time frame. The original thought of not having a 3-year expiring date was to really give the local water agencies the ability to do some thorough analysis and planning. But, I think if it was safe to say that I probably will be back before you 3 years from now, unfortunately.
Maybe not me.
Well, some of you, and requesting for an extension. And I say that with full honesty in terms
Yes.
of where we
Right.
stand currently with being able to put in the necessary infrastructure to no longer have to utilize these filtration systems. So it's a long answer to your question, but I think I preface it with giving you a lay of the land in terms of where we stand in terms of timeframes.
And I think that it's an appropriate answer, and I appreciate that. And I think it's important that we keep the amendment, as you've agreed to, the amendment, and we keep the conversation real and remind us of the need for a centralized system in the future. So I appreciate the inclusion of the sunset as we move forward, and the continuing inclusion of that, I think, is
Senator
important.
Hill chaired this committee last year, and we spent quite a bit of time, but I thought it would be relevant to have Rachel give us a quick update on what the State Water Board's doing. Remember, last year we moved a lot of this access to safe drinking water from the Department of Public Health into the State Water Board. My understanding is they've just released some information or report. Rachel, if you wouldn't mind.
So, as you all know, we transferred the program as pursuant to last year's budget. The State Water Resources Control Board just released their required update to the drinking water plan last week that has a series of actions that the Water Board will be taking in the near and long term in terms of prioritizing those communities of the state that I know, Senator Hill, that you have commented with considerable concern about those 3% or so of the state that have longstanding history of not having clean, drinkable water. They additionally are doing evaluations of the state in general in terms of water quality standards, and have a series of initiatives, as the Assemblyman has mentioned, that the administration will be pursuing through trailer bill language. But the drinking water plan goes to great detail on how the Water Board is going to prioritize water quality, drinking water quality here in the short and long term. And hopefully we won't be back here in 3 years looking for that extension because they have really taken a different direction for the state.
Right, thank you for that. Any other questions by members of the author?
Yes,
Senator Jackson.
having chaired this committee in the Assembly a long time ago, thank you for bringing these bills. You know, this is just an incredible problem in a state where water is such an amazingly scarce commodity, and I'm glad to see that efforts are now being made to address this issue. It's just, it's critical to sustaining our health here in California to provide this kind of protection for water. So as you were talking about the programs, I'm hoping that they will happen in our lifetime. So moving forward, I want to move the bill because I think we just really, this is an urgent issue. So thank you for doing so.
Senator Jackson's made a motion to approve this bill as amended. If you would like to close.
I just respectfully ask for your aye vote, and I appreciate really the understanding of the circumstances that exist throughout the parts of California that continue to lack just this basic need, which is clean and safe drinking water. And I too hope that I don't come back 3 years from now, but nevertheless we are prepared to continue to take on whatever short-term efforts we need to put forward to ensure that people do have safe and clean drinking water in the interest of public health for California. So,
thank you for bringing this to our attention. And the motion again is do pass. Is it to appropriations?
Do pass as amended to appropriations.
Okay, do pass as amended to appropriations. Roll call vote, please.
Item 7AB 434 by Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia. The motion is to pass as amended to Committee on Appropriations. Senators Wykowski, Gaines. Gaines, aye. Bates. Bates, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Jackson. Jackson, aye. Leno. Leno, aye. Pavley.
Aye.
Pavley, aye.
thank you.
All right, leave the roll open for absent members.
Okay.
It's enough to pass. Congratulations, and you're staying put, are you not?
Okay. All right. We do.
Item 10,
Okay. We'll.
AB 1059.
Thank you again. And I'll start off by stating that we will be accepting the committee's amendments as well to AB 1059. This bill will improve the public health for the communities along the California-Mexico border region by expanding the CalEnviro screen to capture relevant environmental data. The Air Resources Board has done a good job in incorporating many types of environmental data to its CalEnviro Screen 2.0 tool. However, the Air Resources Board also acknowledges that there are gaps between the U.S.-Mexico border environmental data. The border, as we all know, has some significant environmental stressors. Those stressors are particulate matter from idling, associated vehicles associated with border wait times. At the same time, traffic density in Mexico, adjacent to California communities, add to that stressor, and of course, many water quality issues along the border. The Assembly Committee on the Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials held a hearing this year in the city of Calexico to help address some of these issues and craft policy, and here's what we have before you. This bill supplements those efforts and will help improve the health and safety for the disadvantaged communities along the border region of California. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. With me is Luis Olmedo with the Comité Cívico, who's also worked on this issue.
All right, thank you very much. Witnesses in support?
My name is Luis Olmedo. Thank you for having me, members of the committee. I'm the Executive Director of Comité Cívico del Valle, a nonprofit organization in the Imperial Valley that advocates for disadvantaged, underserved communities in the U.S.-Mexico border region. Comité Cívico was founded in 1987 by farm workers with the endeavor of improving the lives of underserved communities in the U.S.-Mexico border region, and our mission continues to be to serve the underrepresented or underserved communities in the border region by way of education, capacity building, civic participation. We also advocate for residents' education and participation in research projects. AB 1059 is an important piece of legislation for the border communities along the California-Mexico border. This bill will help improve access to health and environmental data in the California-Mexico border region and would give guidance to the Office of Environmental Health Hazards Assessment for a strategic approach to gathering relevant data to update the CalEnviro screen. This could also help formulate action plans to mitigate environmental concerns which have been identified along the border. OEHA, Office of Environmental Health Hazards, and California Air Resources Board both acknowledge the deficiency and have recommended further studies. For example, according to the United States Department of Transportation, over 1.1 million trucks, 27.5 million personal vehicles, and over 100,000 buses crossed the Mexico border in 2014. As a result of the volumes of vehicles combined with the border wait times, border communities in California are significantly burdened with poor air quality due to idling trucks and vehicles that contribute to negative health impacts. Because of the interconnectedness of California and Mexico as it relates to the economy and goods movement and waterways that are polluted by discharges of waste from domestic and agricultural and industrial sources in Mexico that flow north into California, into the Imperial Valley, into the Salton Sea, which threaten the public health. It is no surprise why counties like Imperial have one of the highest asthma rates in the nation, highest among hospitalization among school-age children. Given the dynamics of the California-Mexico border region, whereas there is insufficient data that exists, AB 1059 will provide agencies with indicators such as traffic density, PM 2.5, which Imperial County does not meet federal standards, PM 2.5, PM 10, ozone, to name a few. Concentrations such as diesel particulate, as well as toxic releases from hazardous waste facilities and generators. This is quite useful and pertinent information to incorporate on the existing CalEnviro screen, as it would provide a more accurate picture of the border region and disadvantaged communities that are disproportionately burdened by pollution. I like calling it rural equity for the border region. Thank you, committee, for allowing me to speak today. And I just want to say on behalf of the border region, where my family has lived for 3 generations, and I'm raising my 3 boys, 3, 8, and 14. I think they're also becoming advocates, and they're much more informed than I was at their age. And so I'd like to ask that that you support this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for coming to Sacramento and sharing that information with us. Very important. And it is about the children a lot and public health. So let's see if there's anyone else wishing to testify in support of this measure. Any opposition? I would suggest there shouldn't be opposition to this. So let me open it up for senators. Any comments or a motion would be in order. Senator Gaines?
Yeah, if I could, just a question of clarification, because we talk about the air quality aspects at the border, and I'm wondering if there should also be a process in terms of what's happening at the federal level in streamlining that process, because when you have people waiting for such a long time, cars are idling, you know, you're creating a real problem. And I don't know to what degree you've engaged with that issue or not.
So we've been working closely with a former colleague of all of you, former Senator, now Congressman Juan Vargas, who represents the border region of Calexico and San Isidro points of entry. This year, the federal government committed $98 million to address some of the border infrastructure needs, expanding some of the point of entry areas to California, which would relieve some of the border wait times that have estimated anywhere between 2.5 to sometimes 4 hours. You know, it's a unique situation when you live next to another country, right? In this case, that has anywhere between 1 million or 1.2 million in population. And so these issues are unique and create some very big challenges, right, as it relates to air quality, water quality. So we are working closely with our counterparts in the federal government level. We're hoping that that does come through, and that the expansion project there in the Calexico, Mexicali border entry is underway and will help address some of these issues.
Right. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you very much, and thanks for asking that question, because we do need a partnership with the federal government on this issue. Any other comments? Senator Leno?
Thank you. Want to commend your creativity, Assemblyman, because this issue of lack of relevant data for purposes of the CalEnviro screen is not limited to this very needed area of greater attention that is highlighted in your bill. In San Francisco, we have a neighborhood of, it was a former shipyard, and somehow it slips through the screen and is not recognized
Because they have ocean winds.
as it should be. And so there's a lot more work to be done statewide. I know our colleague, Senator Lonnie Hancock, has some areas in the East Bay of San Francisco as well that is environmentally degraded and, again, somehow slips through the screen. No metric is going to be perfect, we know that, but again, this is a good way to address the situation in your district. I'm happy to support the bill.
Well, thank you, Senator, and I'd be remiss if I did not, in full transparency, give credit to where credit is due. This is a bill that was proposed by the local community, Comité Cívico, the executive director was here, members of the Imperial County community that have been working on air quality issues for many years now. And so I as their representative, bring this proposition forward, and just thank you for acknowledging the creativity that's coming directly from the people on the ground that are trying to make a difference.
Great.
Come back for Richard. There's already been a motion.
Is
Did you
it
want?
as amended?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, and that sounds like an excellent close, if I may suggest that. And the motion then is do pass as amended to appropriations. Roll call vote, please.
Item 10, AB 1059 by Assemblyman Eduardo Garcia, do pass as amended to Committee on Appropriations. Senators Wykowski, Gaines, Gaines, aye. Bates, Hill, Hill, aye. Jackson, Jackson, aye. Leno,
Aye.
Leno, aye. Pavley,
Aye.
Pavley, aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members listening.
Thank you. 2 for 2. And it's file order, correct?
Yes.
So we're on file item 8, AB 649, Senator Patterson, Assemblymember Patterson. I'm not going to give you a Senate title yet. I have to leave, so what would you suggest?
Senator Gaines.
Senator Gaines, your
Or,
file item 8, sir, if that's okay?
Great, wonderful. Welcome, Assemblymember Patterson.
Thank you very much.
You're bringing forward AB 649. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, appreciate the opportunity to present AB 649 to you today. First of all, I'd like to state that I am glad to accept the committee's recommended amendments. 649 will ensure that our law enforcement agencies can continue to operate pharmaceutical take-back programs in the communities that they serve. Currently, there are at least 85 police and sheriff's departments throughout the state who offer these take-back programs to collect unused prescription drugs. This keeps dangerous drugs out of water sources, off our streets, out of kids' hands, out of our waste handling facilities, et cetera. These programs are successful in disposing pills, but collecting and paying for and taking individuals in our police departments off duty for transport has created some real significant issues. So with limited options for disposal, law enforcement agencies have two options: to ship the collected pills out of state. That comes with a very high price tag, and also for transportation, and a very high price tag at the disposable end per pound. Or the other choice is to take officers off the street to drive long distances in California. Can be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 hours each way. It takes officers an entire day driving long distances to get to 3 incinerator locations in the state of California, and then again must pay thousands of dollars for disposal fees. The LAO estimates that these programs collect about 200,000 pounds of home-generated pharmaceutical waste per year. And I think if we want law enforcement agencies to continue operating these important take-back programs, we really need to make more disposable options available, do so in an affordable, effective way, and in a way that is sensitive to the environment. AB 649 would permit law enforcement agencies that operate these programs to use a pharmaceutical incinerator for up to 4 times a year to dispose of these drugs on site once approved by the Department of Public Health. With these options available, agencies will be able to continue to offer this community service. It will continue to keep these dangerous pharmaceuticals off of our streets, out of the environment. We'll be able to have officers in our community stay in our communities and also do it in a very affordable and efficient way, which we think means that not only are we going to see this particular take-back program continue to be successful, but we may very well see the capacities increase and the numbers of these drugs taken out of the communities and to a disposable facilities like we have here before us. With me today is Reedley Police Department Community Service Officer Julia Martinez, Tom Sheehy of the California Police Chiefs Association, and Aaron McGuire of the California State Sheriff's Association, who will speak in support of the bill.
Great. Please.
Mr. Chair, members, Aaron McGuire on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association. We have approximately 37 sheriff's departments that currently operate drug take-back programs. We've had a strong interest in making sure that especially narcotics or drugs that are subject to abuse, Schedule II and Schedule III, are people have the ability to dispose of those safely and that they're not diverted to other things. We think this bill simply gives another tool and an opportunity for law enforcement to continue these important programs. So we're in support. We ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Julia Martinez with Reedley Police Department. As being a new community member with this for the last 2 years with the Take Back program, noticed firsthand what a burden it can be. It takes a uniformed sworn officer off the streets to accompany me, or whatever, how many units we take. One has to be in the unit to drive the 3 to 4 hours that we have to dispose of it, and it takes a full shift because not only do we have to drive there, we have to witness the destruction, then to drive all the way back. So we would now have one person off the street just for that, or if there's 2 vehicles, now we have 2 people off the streets. So it would be a great asset to have our own there due to the limited storage that we can keep them in each department. We probably can only have between 4 to 6 months to have a secure location in each department to monitor them. And with this bill passing, it could be just with finance reasons, but also just a community, because our community, this has become a huge success, not knowing. With the last 2 years, we average about 40 to 50 pounds, and that's just true weight, no packaging of just drugs coming in. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yes, other comments?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Tom Sheehy with the California Police Chiefs Association. Would concur with the previous comments and just emphasize that we think this measure will give law enforcement the flexibility and authority that they need under the law in order to dispose of these pharmaceutical products effectively and efficiently. We thank Assemblyman Patterson for his leadership on this issue. We think this is the right prescription, and we would kindly ask for your aye vote.
Okay. Thank you. Why don't do we have witnesses in support?
Kim Jones, Community Service Officer with Sanger Police Department, in support of this bill.
Great, thank you. Any other witnesses in support before I shift this over to Chair Wajkowski? All right.
Then let's hear from opposition. Is there any opposition to AB 649? Oh, okay. All right. So I'm clerk.
Hello?
And I got Senator Jackson. Why don't you go? have a question?
Thank you, yes. I want to thank you for bringing this bill, Assemblymember Patterson. But as I sit here listening to this, I think, why in the world is this the job of the police department and law enforcement? And some of you may know that for the past few years, I have been working on this issue to have drug take-back programs that are actually being run by the industry, which is making billions of dollars a year in the profiting of their products, the pharmaceutical industry. And yet they do not wish to take any responsibility. And so it is falling now on law enforcement and on the taxpayer, because that's who's going to pay for this. So excuse me, I hope that as we go forward, and this certainly is, I think, is appropriate, a stopgap measure as we have, and even though we know that incineration can be problematic, it seems at this point to be the best option that we have available. So I thank you for doing this, but I would hope that as we go forward, that we recognize that it's really a shame that we have our law enforcement personnel doing this job, and that the true duties and responsibilities really should fall on the industry. That I think the estimate was $279 billion that they received last year, not necessarily all by profit, but it seems to me that this is an area where the taxpayer is having to pay the costs, and it's my hope that going forward, irrespective of the gentleman standing there with his hands crossed, we will be able to free up that taxpayer money and the work of our law enforcement agencies, which should be, I think, better spent doing what they would otherwise be doing with that time. So I thank you. I'm going to move the bill, and I appreciate your doing this, and I do hope that going forward, if you're interested, we can work together to find other options.
We do have a motion for clarification. In comment number 2, we have 2 proposed amendments regarding the approval date. By requiring approval, the language assumes that the technology is going to be available, so we're asking that we strike approval from the language. Have you had a chance to look at these proposed amendments?
I think he accepted them.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay, good, good guy. Just clarification.
Yes,
So-
gladly.
So it's as amended?
Gladly.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Wachowski, if I could ask your indulgence to make a comment. I represent a number of pharmaceutical manufacturers, specifically today Novo Nordisk. One point I want to make with respect to Ms. Jackson's comments, and the author and the supporters know this, the reason law enforcement is involved is because DEA requirements are that these drugs be handled by law enforcement. So regardless of the cost incurred, any take-back program will require law enforcement's involvement. So I don't want to debate Ms. Jackson's previous proposals, but I do want to point out that is why law enforcement is involved. It is not simply a cost. It is, in fact, federal law.
And for the record, please state your name and...
Jim Gross on behalf of Novo Nordisk. Thank you.
Perfect.
And if I may just respond to that, the costs for any of our law enforcement involvement is being borne by the taxpayer now. That's, I think, part of my point.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
if we look at what some of our communities, including San Francisco and Alameda County and potentially Los Angeles, are doing to shift the responsibility, it is my hope that going forward that the pharmaceutical industry would be delighted to sit down and discuss this so that we can shift this away from the taxpayer and reduce the involvement of law enforcement. So
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. Thank you.
Senator Leno.
Thank you. Assemblyman, I hope you don't feel hijacked.
No, not at all.
It's a broader conversation this committee has
Not at all.
debated for many, many years. I side with Senator Jackson on the debate. I just wanted to, first of all, express my appreciation to the committee for catching that suggested amendment of approval, and Assemblyman for taking it, because it did presuppose the outcome of an evaluation that is yet to occur. So it makes complete sense. And with that amendment, I think it's a stronger bill, and pleased to support it.
Thank you.
Others? We have a motion. All Debate having ceased, would you like to add anything?
Just an appreciation for the opportunity to present and to point out that the amendment that we accepted was a surprise to me that we didn't have it in the bill in the first place. So thank you very much. The approval of the Health Department and all of those, it's very, very important for obvious reasons, and I appreciate the fact that you found the oversight. And with that, I'd like to ask for your support.
Assistant, please call the roll.
Item 8, AB 649 by Assemblymember Patterson. The motion is due pass as amended to Committee on Appropriations. Senators Wykowski?
Aye.
Wykowski, aye. Gaines? Gaines, aye. Bates? Bates, aye. Hill? Hill, aye. Jackson? Jackson, aye. Leno? Leno, aye. Pavley?
Thank you all.
We have a member missing. We'll keep the roll open. Thank you.
Thank you very
Matters
much.
approved. Is this the grand finale? Grand finale. Item number 10, AB 888 by... Item number 9. AB 888 by Assemblymember Bloom. The motion